a small peaceful village cradled between rolling hills and dense whispering forests, a river wound through the land like a living ribbon of silver, its waters shimmering under the morning sun and singing softly as they passed the wheat fields, the orchards, and the small stone cottages with smoke curling from their chimneys. For generations, the villagers had relied on this river for everything, watering their crops, tending their gardens, washing clothes, filling jars, and even cooling themselves during the long, sweltering summers. Children played along its banks, catching fish with bent twigs or skipping stones that danced across its sparkling surface, while elders told stories about how the river had saved the village from droughts, how it had carried their ancestors' prayers and hopes, and how its gentle flow reminded everyone that life, like water, moved steadily if tended with care. One summer, however, the river began to retreat. Its usual clear waters grew shallow and muddy, exposing stones and tangled roots that had never seen daylight. The once lively current slowed to a trickle, and the reeds along the banks drooped in worry. Crops near the river wilted. The cattle came to drink and left thirsty, and even the children no longer laughed by its edge, staring instead at the shrinking water with confused and anxious eyes. Among them were Lara and her younger brother Manu, who spent every morning rushing to the river to see what had changed, their feet sinking into wet soil, their hearts heavy with the thought that something they had always trusted was now fragile and fading. Determined not to let the river die, Lara gathered a group of village children, their small hands clutching sticks and baskets, and together they began cleaning the river banks, pulling out garbage, weeds, and fallen branches that blocked the flow. They worked tirelessly, guided by a sense of responsibility that seemed far too big for their young bodies. Some villagers laughed at first, dismissing the children's efforts as futile. But when the elders saw the determination in their eyes, they began to join in, bringing ropes, small tools, and wisdom born from decades of tending the land. They discovered that upstream, a massive fallen tree had diverted the water into a shallow channel, and together, old and young, men and women, they carefully shifted it, reinforcing it with stones and tied branches so that the river could resume its natural path. Hours passed in quiet, steady labor, sunlight warming wet backs and muddy hands, the sound of the river slowly returning like a soft, welcoming sigh. Birds returned to the trees above, their songs blending with the renewed murmur of water, while the villagers sang old songs of gratitude and resilience, sharing smiles and laughter despite tired muscles. As the river began to sparkle once more, Lara and Manu felt a deep sense of triumph, realizing that even small, consistent actions mattered, that life depended on careful attention, cooperation, and care. The villagers learned that the river was not just water flowing through the land, but a living thread connecting everyone. A reminder that what nurtures one nurtures all. They spent the evening planting flowers and grasses along the banks, reinforcing the river's strength and creating small walkways for children and the elderly to enjoy its beauty safely. When the sun began to set behind the hills, painting the sky in fiery reds and oranges, the children splashed in the river once again, their laughter bright and clear, echoing across the fields and into the village, while elders watched with warm and satisfied smiles. In that long summer evening, everyone understood something profound, that caring for life, for each other, and for the gifts that sustained them was not just work, but a celebration of the bond between people and nature. And as the moon rose, silvering the river's surface, the villagers realized that the river had returned stronger, not just because they had worked together, but because they had remembered that even the smallest acts of love and care ripple outward, flowing endlessly, connecting hearts, homes, and the world around them.